And then,
had he been exposed to Christianity?
I was gonna get to it. And then so he's got this, and then he woke up. It was fine. He didn't think much about the dream. He kept on he was a teacher as well in a local school, and then he took the fourth times, and the fourth time he failed again, and then the fourth time he failed again. And then this guy visited his home, and in his home he actually saw a little book called it's called 劝世良言, which means to warn or to admonish the world with good words. And it's basically a guy written by a guy called Liang Fa, who was a printer for Christian missionaries. And so actually, why was the book there? It was because Hong, the second time that he failed, he was given it. He flipped through it and threw it away. And that's why the third time, and then he must have read a little bit of it, and it's in his head. So this is, I think, it's a lot of Freudian or Jungian theory in it. That's like you just read a little bit of it, and the dream came to him. And so from then on, the friend showed him, and he was like, wow, actually, this is the God that I saw. And I'm the second son. I am like, oh, that makes all the sense now, because he told me that I'm the second son, because his first son is Jesus. Yes, that's right, it's Jesus. And then I'm his second son. So Jesus is his younger brother. And then so that makes all the sense now. The dream makes all the sense now. Yes. And then what happened was, and then he had a cousin called Feng Yunshan. So let me just write out the names, the main names. So you've got what should we call him? God's second son. So you've got Hong as the top guy, And then I'll write. You'll see why I write it in this. And there's a Feng. Feng is Hong's cousin, and Feng is more learned than even though he didn't pass any of the exams, but he was more learned, and he actually told Hong, "I believe you." Feng and the other and another Hong his younger cousin, also Hong, also said, you know what, you should, he somehow convinced both of them that he is really the second son of God. And they were like, we should do something about it, And so and there are a lot of evil here, especially Confucius. And obviously he must be, because he kept on failing, right? That's why I always say to, educators, like who else actually failed his exams and then became a crazy guy and insane and then killed a lot of people? Hitler, right? So it's always be very, because people who have good examination results will never do anything too drastic. They have too much to lose. So always be careful of megalomaniacs who somehow kept on failing, right? So Hong is like one of these guys. So if he kept on failing, then the Confucius must also be evil, right?
Can I ask a question? The photo, when he was flipping through the book, there was a photo in sort of a Renaissance.
Yeah.
Was God white? Was he a Caucasian?
Well, what's interesting is he was wearing a black robe, which is actually a Taoist. It's actually in Taoist, which is a local Chinese, you could say, paganism. The top god, like the Zeus, the Jupiter, is actually is also called Heaven Emperor. And he would have a black robe. So actually he saw like a Chinese version of him, right? So, and then also why he had, because he's really quite insane, because Hong actually means flood. And so in that booklet, it talked about Noah and the ark. So that must be a connection. And then another thing is in Chinese, the translation of Jehovah is 耶和华, 耶和华, or 耶火华. Huo is fire. His other name, Hong Xiuquan's other name is Hong Huo Xiu. So it's like, God and I, we have the same name. So again, but someone must have some kind of inclination to be insane in order to find. If you read anything, you'd find some kind of connection with you, right? So basically, it's convinced them. And so they went around and they started breaking like Confucian statues or pagan statues like Wang Daixin's statues. And so he and Feng got kicked out from the village because of that. And what's interesting about this is, and this is why the Taiping is so relevant, even in today, the current regimes, is because, the Taiping rebellion, it's actually on the statue in Tiananmen Square. And you know who else followed him and became a Christian and started breaking like statutes of pagans as well later? Sun Yat-sen. So the father of the republic did exactly the same thing, and that's why he got kicked out from a village and was forced to go and study in Hawaii, and that's how he learned his principles. Sun Yat-sen. So Sun Yat-sen actually learned. It was exactly. He was in Zhongshan, so it's very close. Yeah. So Zhongshan would probably walk in this, well, it's Guangdong. It's here. It's all around here, and so they had to flee. So they couldn't be in the village. They went around Guangzhou, and talked about how he was the second son of God, and how and apparently Feng was a great a master like fortune teller, and he read his face and thought that his cousin would be a great guy. Yeah. So and they went around in Guangzhou, but Guangzhou nobody really listened to him because they know what real Christianity is. So they went, and like everything else, they went west. They went west to Guangxi, which is one of the poorest provinces, well, even today. And at that time, it was an extremely dense population. And they went to this mountain where there's a lot of coal inside, and they started spreading that religion. And then there were a lot of people following them because they had absolutely no idea about either Confucianism or Christianity. But they basically, how they spread it was basically using any common cult tactics, which is, if you don't believe in us, God will come and punish you. So you probably see some of these guys in America too, right? Today, right? So they did that tactic, and it was in the beginning it was mostly Feng's job in organizing the religion. Hong was kind of like just out there.
Can I answer?
Sorry. Yeah. No, go ahead. Yeah.
When you say that the people in Guangzhou didn't necessarily take him seriously because they'd seen real religion,
Christianity,
is that because of the Portuguese influence?
Because they're British. Because Canton had who were there already. That's where he got the little booklet, right?
Right. Okay.
So and also because who are more gullible? People in worse circumstances are usually more gullible, not because of anything but because the present situation is so bad, they want to believe in something, right? So when they say this is a God, he's the son of God, second son of God, and if you believe in him, you will have a good harvest. But if you don't, snakes will come in and bite you. That kind of stuff. And so it's easier to create a following. But during that time, Hong went back to Guangzhou, and actually he went to a missionary. He actually worked or studied under a missionary, a guy called Roberts. He's actually a Yale graduate, a Yale Divinity School graduate. And Hong was this close to getting baptized. But then Roberts kept on saying, you know what, that dream of yours, you're not really the second son of God, so stop talking about it. Like, God only has one son, and it's Jesus Christ. And also another thing is Hong was kind of strapped for cash. So he was like, okay, if I become a Christian and I work here, can I get some cash? And Robert's like, no, this is you do it for voluntary work. And so literally, some texts say that the day before he was baptized, he fled. He fled with Hong. Actually, Hong, the younger Hong Rengan, his younger brother, his cousin, uncle's son, he was baptized eventually, and he went to Hong Kong. But Hong Xiaoquan, the second son of God, then went back to find Feng in Guangxi.